After Ganon destroy, Impa tell Link about sleeping spell cast on Zelda. She will awaken only when number 3 Triforce sealed in palace in Hyrule to break seal. Crystals placed in statues' palaces. Adventuresome quest. Yet. Hi, my name is Carlos. I'm going to play through Zelda 2. I have once won life this game, but I haven't played it in like 15 months. So I totally thought, man oh man, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to sweep through this damn game in one life and be so damn impressed with myself. That didn't happen. By the way, this is all footage that's been recorded before and I'm just talking over it. There will be a commentary-free version which you can get to by clicking on the link in the video description if you don't like the sound of my awesome voice. So, I'm going to start this Zelda 2 playthrough by running into a random encounter on the plains. Try to kill the moblins because they rob experience from you when they hit you, and we don't want that. They also don't give you experience, so I'm just gonna run. Or apparently not. I'm gonna revenge kill a whole bunch of them. This forest here contains a pea bag, which will increase my experience by 50, but I ran into a random mob in it, so I'm gonna have to beat this encounter, jump around, lose all my experience, and go back in. These bats are giving me a hell of a time for being like one of the easiest enemies in the game. They can also apparently latch to the clouds when they're not attacking me. I don't have any spells, so there's no point in me using a spell to make use of that magic bottle. P-bag is right there. You get items in this game by slashing them with your sword. Kinda weird. Gonna increase my life and move on. So let's talk a little bit about Zelda 2. For my money, one of the best Zelda games, by and far the most underrated, and the most hated for no good reason. But gamers are a bit of a dumb breed. They also like Sonic CD for some reason, even though Sonic CD is hot garbage. They also seem to like Zelda 64, and I'll never understand that one. These older Zelda games, Zelda 2, Zelda 3, the original to an extent, although I personally think the original Zelda's underrated. Link's Awakening, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. These games were about timing and positioning. Yeah, you had to puzzle your way through dungeons, but the combat, which you don't see a lot of in RPGs these days, Bastion is the closest analog I can think of for classic Zelda combat, albeit that's all Bastion really is. You don't really see that kind of combat in modern Zeldas. In modern Zeldas, in the 3D Zeldas specifically, they lock you into this cinematic perspective where you kind of Mike Tyson's punch out your way through enemies. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that is not my cup of tea. I don't like 3D Zeldas. I have a bit of a soft spot for Wind Waker because I like the aesthetic of it, I like the story it told, I like the dynamics between Link and Tetra, and I really, really like the final boss fight in it. But that was more of an exception and not the rule. I'm really not a fan of the 3D Zeldas. By the way, some of the text boxes I display on screen because I don't remember what the particular person said, and I was wondering if it was important. I will probably be closing most of these dialogue boxes the moment they open. If you want to find out what they are, go play Zelda 2. It's awesome. So I probably should have talked about this before. I went to that one cave to obtain the angel statue and get the jump spell early. You only need to do this after beating the first palace, after having the candle so you can navigate through that cave. I did it without the candle because I'm just fucking cool that way. I also normally go to the cave south of the starting point, which has a magic container to increase my maximum magic, but I forgot about it and only get it after I get the candle in the first palace. So that's why I did things in the order that I did. With the jump spell, I can get to the second palace now if I were so inclined, but I would have to trudge my way through a cave with no candle and with harder enemies than I want to deal with without being able to see. So I'm going to make my way to the other town I have access to right away and obtain the shield spell, which is an entirely optional spell. When you cast it, and all spells in this game that have an effect on you, they last until you switch screens, basically. When you cast it, for the duration of the time you're on your current screen, it reduces the damage done to you, and it turns Link's tunic into a sexy shade of red, brown, Indian red. It used to be called Indian Red. I don't think that's terribly PC. By the way, speaking of PC, I swear a lot, and I often employ crude humor. If you don't like that, don't listen to any of the video you just listened to. So here, I will get the shield spell, and I will use this to reduce damage at key points, or if I find the stray magic container somewhere and I feel like casting the spell to get my magic back, why the hell not? The jump spell increases my jump height and is needed to get past certain points in the game. The shield spell is not needed, but it's handy. So, ba-bam! Learning spells in Zelda II. This is what you get instead of usable items. The items you get in this game are passive, so there is a gauntlet that lets you break blocks you can't normally break, and a magic key that is basically an infinite key, which you get in the 6th Palace. Items are passive in this game and are always on. Your active abilities are spells, which I kind of like. I like that. I like the Link in this game in that he's apparently the same Link from Zelda 1. He's grown up, he's matured, he's a more capable fighter, and he has dabbled in magic, and I really like... I really like the feel of that. I like the warrior who also dabbles in magic. It's a pretty cool dynamic, if you ask me. I remember that there was that invisible slug in this cave that you have to go through in the dark, so I slashed out until I got it. That was not an interesting observation at all. Here, the palace is to the north, but I'm going to head south to obtain this heart container. Now, there's a scene in this road here that takes you through a little set of jumps with random bubblies that spawn from the ground. They knock you back and potentially into the insta-kill water. I nearly died there, actually. And after I navigate it, I can go get this heart container. Now, speaking of dying, this game does have a live system. And originally, I was going to try to make this a one-life run. I can tell you right now, that did not succeed. So I was going to try to make it a one-credit run, and I can tell you right now that didn't succeed either. So this is just, I guess, a normal Let's Play of Zelda II. It is not going to be spectacular because I am not a speedrunner. The only games I really take seriously and try to get better at are fighting games, and even then, probably not as much as I should. Yeah, so where was I? Zelda II. Underrated game. Very solid combat, good platforming, jumping feels good. You can increase your jump height and length by getting a running start. You don't have to hold a button to run, which is awesome. I always hated that about games that make you hold a button to run where you always want to be running. Mario. And the sword slashes, you can do the standing slash, which has a bit of a wind-up, but when Link rears back his sword, he can slash again right away. The crouching slash is instant, right when you press the button. And you can do both of those in the air. You can jump standing slash or jump crouching slash, so it lets you modify the height you want to attack something at. These are Stalfos. They always hold their shield upright, so you slash at their legs to kill them. You can block attacks yourself with your shield, high attacks by standing, low attacks by crouching. The combat in this game feels really good because enemies are designed basically around the fact that Link has this attack range and 2 attack options. Well, more when you get the up and down thrust, but this ability to wind up a slash for a little more range, or to do your crouching slash, which is instant. There I did a crouching slash because I didn't know if that enemy was going to approach me and hit me while I lurched up onto the elevator. These enemies don't reward you with experience, but if they touch you, they drain experience from you. These skulls, I believe they're called anti-fairies. They were in Zelda 3 anyway. They drain a bit of your magic if they hit you, and they take a ton of damage that my level 1 sword is not going to do much to. Later, before I finish the palace, because finishing the palace gets you an extra level, I do come back and I grind a few of those guys for experience, but whenever I have to backtrack a long distance or have to grind, I fast forward this video so that you don't have to go through the whole thing, don't worry. You might notice I'm slashing at all the Iron Knuckle statues because some of them contain red magic bottles, which are handy. They replenish your whole magic. So if I get one, I cast all the spells I can and then I immediately cast it. This becomes useful later when you get the life spell, and it's basically a free life cast. There are no health drops in this game, other than finding a heart container or getting a life level up. Those will heal you, or the life spell. That's it. Speaking of leveling up, when you get a certain amount of experience, you can level up one of your stats. Life reduces the damage you take, magic reduces the amount of magic points spells cost, and attack increases your sword power. You can choose not to gain a level right away and save your points for the next most expensive item on the list, but I just get them right away. If you game over, you lose all your experience that you were building towards, so that next 200, let's say I died right now and had to start the game over, I would be back at 0 out of 200. That does happen later, though you can start back from the North Palace with all your progress intact. The North Palace is your start point, by the way. These are Iron Knuckles. The designers clearly meant for you to have to attack them high and low until you finally broke through their guard. However, it is very easy to just jump slash at their head and kill them with ease. Here, I did not have the key for that lock because I haven't played this game in 15 months and I did not remember the layout of this palace, so I'm going to have to go get a key before I go through that locked door, which leads to the candle. What else can I talk about Zelda II? And again, if you don't like the sound of my awesome voice, by all means feel free to either watch the version without commentary, the link is in the video description, or by all means dislike my video and add to my total, whatever that stat is in YouTube. That only really helps me and does not hurt me in the least. I mean, honestly, I could just turn off the likes and dislikes for my one YouTube troll stalker who thinks he's doing any harm to me by flooding me with dislikes. Shoutouts to YouTube troll stalkers from Brazil. Brazil's a great place. Made a less great place by that douchebag. Anywho, here I was confused which way I needed to go. The Iron Knuckle I vaguely recalled led to the boss, so I went back up this way, which I originally went through first. Turned out it was the right way to go. Go through here, which leads me to a key, which I can use to get the candle, and then proceed to beat the boss of this palace. Now, in most other Zelda games, you go through a dungeon, you get the item of the dungeon, and that item helps you either beat the dungeon and or defeat the boss. Here, the dungeon items are not always necessary to beat the dungeon they're found in. The candle, for instance, is an optional but nigh necessary item for anyone but the most memorization-happy of speedrunners. Shoutouts to speedrunners, they're great. That wasn't meant to be an insult at all. I'm just not one of them. So the candle in this palace is very much one of those items that lets me proceed. The second palace has a gauntlet that lets me break through blocks that I need to get through the second palace and then later the third palace with. So it does follow the Zelda formula in that way to an extent, but for the most part, this game does things differently. It has a live system, the combat is mainly side-scrolling platforming, and it is just a great game overall. It's very well designed, it feels very good, and it is hated for no good reason, because Zelda fans, and Nintendo fans in general, are some of the most obnoxious fans in gaming, and have no idea what makes good game design. Here I just grind out this anti-fairy, because I know I'm gonna need to eventually, so I figured I'd just kill that one. Run across this bridge here, at amazing speed. I just used iMovie's shitty romantic filter for those speed-ups. Got the candle, and let's go back to that elevator, which will lead me to the boss. Da-da-da-da-da, kill these bots. Zelda enemies have the weirdest names. These slimes are called bots, those skulls are called anti-fairies, the knights are called Iron Knuckles, even though their knuckles do not come into play when it comes to fighting them. The bird knights in the final palace are called Fockas. Seriously, not making that up. I just call them Hawk Knights because that sounds badass, and they are monstrously scary. We'll see more when I eventually get there. Beat the Stalfos here, very easy. This one as well. Later you find blue Stalfoses who try to down thrust you. They are a little more difficult, but not terribly problematic. These enemies, I don't know their names. I call them Hammer Brothers because they behave just like the Hammer Brothers from the Mario Brothers series. They hug hammers and you find an opening to sneak in. Unlike Hammer Brothers, they take more than one hit and you kill them with a sword. It would be pretty badass to kill a Hammer Brother with a sword, in my humble opinion. Defeat this Iron Knuckle here, and that should be the only thing between me and the boss. Drop the P-Bag, very nice. Level up my magic. Go beat the boss, and then grind out some experience so that I can get yet one more level before finishing the palace to get yet another level. This boss is Horsehead. He is easy. If he hits you with his mace, you get knocked back. But avoid that by getting running starts, jumping, and doing a crouching slash in midair. That will hit him right on his ears, and he will neigh like the bastard that he is. He doesn't really neigh. And eventually die. So, while I'm quickly grinding out the experience I need to get this level so that I can get yet another level at the end, let's talk a little bit about something that I completely forgot about. Zelda II? So in Zelda II, it has an experience system, and you don't need to grind out to beat the game. I like to because I'm obsessive-compulsive about making sure I'm at level 8 with everything by the end. I'm not a big fan of grinding in games in general, but for the most part, Zelda II incorporates its grind into its gameplay such that you're gonna do it as you play anyway, and generally you will be at a level that you can beat the game at when you get to the final bosses. And with this, I insert the gem into the giant dildo statue. One of the 6 gems I need to insert into the various dildos across the land. And with that, I'm going to end this first video. Hope you enjoyed it!